Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for one of our regular sessions on Diplomat Diaries, which we are very proud to be hosting this afternoon. Ambassador of Egypt, Kamel Galal, for his comments, for his introduction. Some of the questions that perhaps you may have, he will be happy to answer. But I think, given that the moment that we are in, both in terms of global politics, geopolitics in the region and beyond, India-Egypt ties. We have Egyptian foreign minister visiting India next week. This is a particularly opportune moment to reflect upon the journey of India-Egypt relations, but also where they stand today amongst all the plethora of challenges that the world faces and that both India and Egypt are trying to navigate in their own ways. So we will have brief remarks from the ambassador, then we will have a few questions from me, and then we will open it up for your questions, comments, and observations. Ambassador, over to you.
Thank you very much, Professor Harsh, and thank you for inviting me to ORF. I have a confession before I start, and a very difficult confession. I'm the worst diplomat that you can ever meet in your life. The worst diplomat who does not have any speaking notes. So I'm coming without any speaking notes. So I will. My chest is open to you. You can send all the bullets that you want to send to me. Yeah, spontaneous. So it's a talk of the heart. I will give you a very brief overview of our bilateral relations with India, and then we will open the floor for all the questions that you might have, which I think that you will have a lot of questions regarding the developments and the atrocities that is happening in our part of the world. So as Professor Harsh just mentioned, the parameters of the Egyptian foreign policy, it's very linear and it's very simple and it is very direct. It is simply 3 Ps. It has always been like that ever since dawn of history. Egypt is the cradle of civilization. We have been there for so long. We have seen nations being built, nations going away, but Egypt has always been there. So simply the parameters of our foreign policy is, first is peace. And as I don't know if you know that the first peace treaty in history was made by Ramses II. So it was emanating from Egypt. So peace is the first parameter. Prudence is the second P. This is something that is enshrined in our foreign policy. We do not rush into any judgments. We observe, and we take our decisions based on these observations. The third P is persistence. And we are persistent in anything that once we decide that we're going to do to a certain direction, we are very persistent going in. So these are the 3 Ps that is very simple, very linear, that is engulfing all of our foreign policy movement. If you follow Egyptian foreign policy throughout the past 100, 200, 300 years, 400 years, basically it is going around these 3 Ps. And from the 3 Ps, let me go into the Egypt-India relations, which is very. I don't know if did anybody ever make a research on Egyptian-Indian relations? When does it date back to? Anybody has any idea? Yeah. Anybody? Numbers? Again, no, I don't hear you.
Ashoka the Great had
When was that?
12th century BC.
No, no, that we go back furthermore.
People migration happened
Yeah.
in India.
You know, the first traces, it goes back to 4,752 years, exactly. We had a king, his name is Sahur. He was from the 5th dynasty of the ancient Egyptians. He was the first one to send ships to trade with the land of Punt, which is now India. This, and then after that we start finding traces of fabrics, Indian fabrics, and spices in the mummification of Egyptian mummies. So it goes back to that era. That's why if you walk in the Egyptian streets, you will not find yourself. And Egyptians will not. First of all, we will not recognize that you're foreigners, and you will not recognize you're in a foreign country. The principles that is enshrined in the Egyptian society, it's very similar to the one that you have in India. So this is how back we go. And in contemporary politics, or in contemporary era, in the 20th century, we have always, there's a characteristic in our relation that is very peculiar, and that is duality. We have always had this duality. We had Mahatma Gandhi here in India, we had Saad Zaghloul in Egypt, and both were struggling for the liberation of their countries. And then you had here in India Nehru, and we had Gamal Abdel Nasser, which we led together the non-aligned movement. And the new duality that we have right now, which I call the Sisi Modi duality, which with President Sisi and Prime Minister Modi, and all this, both of them came to power or elected in 2014 with their nations, and with an ambition, with nations that had genuine challenges. You had genuine challenges here in India. We had very difficult challenges in Egypt, in our part of the world. We were coming from two revolutions in 2011 and 2013. But both had an ambition, not only to come out from or face these challenges, but to take their country, transform it into a totally new era. So as we see here in India, there's a lot of developments that you have, what you call the Viksit Bharat 2047, and we have in Egypt Vision 2030, and that is transforming Egypt into a totally new era. Focusing on the mechanisms, we have different mechanisms in our bilateral relations, but I have to confess that it could be better, because, for instance, trade between Egypt and India is around $4 to $5 billion, and this is far beyond the potential of these two economies. It's far under the potential. And I last March, when our Minister of Trade was here, he met with the Indian Minister of Trade, the Minister Piyush Goyal, and after the meeting, they agreed that they need to increase this trade to $12 billion. And as we were going back to the hotel, my minister was telling me, "What do you think? 12 billion, we can do it in 2-3 years?" I told him, "Listen, this is not good enough. This is not good for me. Actually, the potential of our bilateral trade could be minimum based on the comparative weight of the Indian economy and the comparative weight of the Egyptian economy. It should be between 30 and 40 billion dollars minimum. So 12, fine. Let's try. Let's reach 12, but actually, it's still we have much more potential. Investments, it's 5 billion, 3.7 billion dollars. 55 companies, Indian companies working in Egypt. Still, far under the potential. But after being here for a few months now, and I think I had this discussion with Kabir the other day. I did not know where's the problem. In our, there's a blockage somewhere, but I started to understand where the blockage is coming from. It's coming from the way the Indian private sector and policymakers view Egypt. Because you view our, and not only Egypt, actually, if my dear friend Ambassador of Jordan allow me, I can even speak for our part of the world. You look into our part of the world from a certain lens, and you think our part of the world is looking at India from a certain lens. For instance, many people here in India think that we are looking to India from an economic perspective. I'm sorry to get you down, but this is not true. It's not true. It has never been like that, at least for my country. If you think that Egypt is looking at India from an investment or a perspective or a opportunistic perspective, this is not true at all. We were with India when you were so poor, because we were poor. We stood together during difficult times. Actually, relations started getting back a little bit the more that you get wealthy. So we have this historic relation, and you will not be able to achieve what you opt for except when we work together. As we say, the global South, South cooperation. You will never be able to do that. So this is the main principle of our relation. We have this strategic partnership now. It has been signed in 23. It is very optimistic. It is my job to translate it into deliverables. Of course, not my personal job, but it's my job as an ambassador and the Indian ambassador in Cairo job. It is the bureaucracy's job to translate it into deliverables. This is what we are trying to do. We are going to hold the first strategic dialogue very, very, very soon between Egypt and India, and I hope this would translate into concrete results that can be delivered very soon at the level of political relations, economic relations, and most importantly for me, is people to people. This is the main thing. The key to opening opportunities is getting Indians to know Egypt and Egyptians to know India, because I don't know if anybody, if you have ever known that I went to school here in India. I was raised in India, so I consider myself a good conductor. And from my experience in India, when I was in school, you don't know much about Egypt, and in Egypt we don't know much about you. But living here, I know that the commonalities and the potentials that we have. So this is something that is why I was adamant to come today to speak to you, despite that I have a lot of things to do. But this is part of my job, people to people. I want to discuss, and that's why I do not have any written speech. I'm coming to just have a discussion and open discussion with you all. I hope I'm not long. I will stop here. I'm told you I'm the worst diplomat, so I don't speak much. So I will leave myself into your hands.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. This was important. You touched upon most of the important aspects, and I have just on behalf of ORF, I would also like to mention that we have started a very sustained outreach to Egypt at the think tank academic level. We are engaged with Egypt, ECS, of course, and we are hosting 2 scholars in our office in Dubai very soon for a period of 3 months. So we are looking forward to that exchange fructifying and being more productive. But I also hope that it becomes more widespread. As you mentioned, academic exchanges are the best way to get the 2 younger generations acquainted with each other. So I hope you are able to impart momentum to that. But I do have one question, Ambassador, in terms of, we often, the way you bookended the relationship, Nasser Nehru to Modi Sisi. But I think you yourself acknowledged that they are not where they ought to have been. What reasons would you attribute this to? In between the lost momentum, what should we attribute that to? Is it simply bureaucratic inertia, or is it that the worldviews diverge? What happened? What's the story there?
I think that the reason behind that is that we had both our countries. We were indulged into severe challenges during the 70s, 80s, 90s, and we were reforming our country. So relations started to ease a little bit. Things were not as close, as hot as it should be. And then in the early 21st century, you had your challenges, we had our challenges. After that, we started discovering that in Egypt, at least from 2014 or 2013, that we cannot sustain keeping looking to the north or looking to the west. We need to look east. This is the real. This has always been, and this will remain, and this is the future. This is the real weight that is coming. It will come from the east. So this is one of the things, and I think this what happened here in India. And correct me if I'm wrong. That you started to look that. Listen, Europe and the US are very important countries, and they cannot be ignored. But there are other alternatives to the world, and the Middle East is one of the alternatives. Asia is one of the another alternative. So you are looking for alternatives. I think we are looking. That is why I'm telling you. We have always been throughout history, or at least recent history, passing through the same stages together, some way or another. Yes, there was a cooling period on your part and on our part, I have to confess. We had our challenges, we had our problems, we had our economic challenges domestically, political challenges, security challenges, and the same thing was happening here in India.
Things, Ambassador, that the strategic partnership agreement that you alluded to talks also about is the defense cooperation element, security cooperation. What are some of the areas there that you are prioritizing, and where do you think the synergies between the two nations lie?
I think this is one of the low-hanging fruits in our possible cooperation. I see an opportunity and a challenge. And I will refer to the challenge first. The challenge is simply that we should not look into each other as markets, because we produce ammunition and weapons, and you produce. So we should not. I should not try to come to sell you, and you should not come to sell to me. And this is the challenge. But the opportunities is joint production. You do not have the top-notch technology. We do not have the top-notch technology. We can reach it together. We have the capabilities to reach it together. We cannot reach it alone, and you will not be able to reach it alone. But we can reach it together. This is the opportunity, and this is something that our diplomatic defense attaché here and our Ministry of Defense is trying to discuss with their Indian counterparts, companies, and the Ministry of Defense, that we can have joint programs of joint production. This is one of the components. The other component is joint exercises and joint researches, and this is another a very important component. And I'll just go back a little bit to the joint production. The joint production would not be only for Indian markets and Egyptian markets. Through joint production, we can open the door to Africa. We can open the door to Europe. You can open the door to the Middle East. You can open the door to the EU. We can open the door to the Mercosur countries. So it's a whole network of FTAs that we have, around 111 FTA with the whole world. So it can open the door to another market of 2.5 billion customers. So this is one of the fields of that we can have cooperation.
So before I open this up to others, Ambassador, one final thought perhaps that you can reflect upon is what is happening at the moment in the region, and how do you look at it, the conflict, there has been a shift towards violence much more blatantly in recent, I would say recent years, than in the past. Middle East itself going through a changing balance of power, both new powers rising, but also America's traditional footprint being reassessed, both in terms of what is happening at the moment, versus what is the larger balance of power. How do you look at it from Cairo, and how do you assess this changing realities on the ground? In your perspective?
Thank you very much for this question. Actually, I was waiting for it, looking forward to get this question. But before answering, could anybody tell me when this really started? This turmoil in the Middle East? Any other dates?
After Afghanistan,
Mhm.
the US went to Iraq.
The agreement between the British and the French providing the southern area.
Okay. This is a bit of a history, but no. Powers in the Middle East throughout history, or at least recent history, there has always been pillars. And I have my colleague and my mentor with me here, Ambassador of Jordan. There has always been three pillars of stability. I wouldn't say stability, but there has always been three pillars in the Middle East. There has always been Iran. It's a very old nation, a very old civilization. There has been the Turkey, which is a very old civilization, and there is Egypt. These are the three constants, at least throughout the past 200, 300 years, 400, 500. Egypt has been there since dawn of history. So, and there's always changing powers, rising powers, and then they fall and they fade away. And it has always been like that throughout history. Am I right? It has always been like that. There are powers that rise, and there are powers that they fade away. As you mentioned, Professor, you are seeing rising powers in the Middle East right now, but there has always been rising powers. For instance, in the 80s, anybody can who was the rising power in the 80s in the Middle East? 80s and 90s, I would say. Exactly. Where is Iraq today? Okay. And there was another country in the 80s, late 70s, 80s. No, there was Syria, a very important country, a very crucial country, a key country to the Middle East. What happened to Syria? There are countries that rising powers in the Middle East today. Let's see what will happen in 20, 30, 40 times, 20, 30, 40 years from now. We have always been there, so we are patient, and we see what happens, and we see the dynamics of things, and we understand it. We are very humble, and we don't consider ourselves a major power. We are just a country in the Middle East, crucial country. We work with our brothers and sisters in the Middle East, all of the countries of the Middle East. We have very good relationship with all the countries. We have peace with Israel, and I'm sure you know. We have our relations with the Iranians. We have of course, our first priority is the Arab countries and the African countries. So we watch what happens, and we observe. We don't rush into results, and we do not try to compete with anybody, and we will never do that. We don't do that. We just watch. We'd like to observe, because history changes. Things happen. Coming to what's happening now in the Middle East, I'm sure that you are alluring to what's the current circumstances with the war against Gaza and the military escalations between Iran or do I leave this to the floor? If they want to ask?
I think they will ask certainly, but I think we can have your initial comments.
Before coming here, I used to be director for Palestine department in my foreign ministry, and my previous posting, I served 4 years in Tel Aviv in Israel. So I presume that I would be understanding what I'm speaking about here when I speak about this issue, because ever since I came here to India, and this is what part of the thing that I don't see that you really grasp what's happening in our part of the world, because everybody's speaking, this all happened, this all flared up from the 7th of October. It all happened from the 7th of October. I think this is something that I've been speaking to my dear friend, Ambassador Jordan, on. Do you think that this whole thing is happening today because of 7th of October? What happened the 7th of October? Who thinks so? No. Any other ideas? No, nobody. Actually,
This whole thing has been there ever since the state of Israel was created.
yeah. Yeah, yes, it has always been there, and what's because here in mainstream media, a lot of people speaking about what happened on the 7th of October. Well, what happened on the 7th of October is condemnable. It is not acceptable. What Hamas did is unacceptable, and Egypt was on the forefront of the countries that condemned this act. But does that mean 60,000 civilians, children? And by the way, the number 60,000 keeps on increasing, and it has become a number. Nobody really understood that it is 60,000 individual human life. Human life. Look at what happened to India. What happened to you all? What happened to me when I was here in India watching 26 Indians being killed by civilians being killed by terrorists? 26. Because even one is too much. One is too much. What about 60,000? 60,000. Nobody can be complacent with that. 60,000. This is a real genocide, a real massacre. And this is not by the way, this is not only the Egyptian position, this is the position of Israeli prime ministers, previous prime minister Ehud Barak and Olmert. They are saying that this is genocide. The Israeli professors in Israeli universities, they are saying that this is genocide. You cannot be complacent. Nobody can be complacent with what's happening. Why did it happen? What did 7th of October happen? Well, what happened on the 7th of October and where we are today with 60,000 human lives lost, actually they are symptoms. They are not the root causes of the problem. They're only symptoms. The root causes is totally different. The root causes is lack of appetite from Israel and from the international community to pressure for a peace process. The peace process that Egypt initiated, the President Sadat initiated a peace process in 1977. After the 1973 war, the guy went to Tel Aviv, to the Knesset, to the Israeli Knesset in 1977. A step that nobody on earth imagined. Nobody on earth. I knew some of the one of the Israeli officers. I will tell you a small story. I'm sorry, I will just deviate a little bit. One of the Israeli officers who used to be in the IDF was a very good friend of mine, and he told me when he was a young officer at that time in 1977. Nobody expected. They did not expect that as the aircraft landed in Ben Gurion Airport. Nobody expected that the Egyptian president would be coming out of this. What they expected is that Egypt is sending military troops to kill the Israeli government because they are all were waiting for him in the airport. So they were waiting for the aircraft the door to open, and they were sitting on the top of the airport. Snipers, they were snipers. So they would kill anybody coming out of the aircraft door because they thought that it's not going to be the Egyptian president. They could not imagine that it was going to be the Egyptian president. President Sadat made the step, and he went to the Israeli Knesset. He spoke very clearly on peace, and we had the peace treaty in 1979. President Sadat lost his life because of the peace treaty with Israel, but we were resilient. The Egyptian society was resilient because there was a push. We faced a whole wave of terrorism in the 80s that was because of the peace treaty with Israel. But we were resilient. The real problem with Israel is that the Israeli society is not resilient. After the Oslo Accord, and this was the time that they had the Wadi Arab agreement with Jordan, the Israeli society started. Of course, there was resistance the peace agreement with Jordan and with the Palestinians. The same thing happened in Egypt, and we faced I'm telling you, we faced a wave of terrorism, and they started facing a wave of terrorism in Israel, and actually Prime Minister Rabin lost his life because of the peace treaty or because of the Oslo Accord. But this was a very important juncture in Israeli history. The Israeli society started moving more and more towards extremism. The whole society. If you see the trajectory of the Israeli society, from where it was in the 90s and where it is today. For instance, is the Likud of the 90s the same as the Likud today? We made peace with the Likud. It was Menachem Begin. The members of the Israeli government today, I don't know if you know that. For instance, Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, the two ministers in the Israeli government as we speak, you know that by Israeli Knesset law, passed in the 90s, that they were designated as terrorists. This shows the trajectory of the Israeli society. And by the way, what I'm telling you, a lot of Israelis understand it and know it. I had friends in Israel, and I used to tell them, and they would agree on that. Israel keeps speaking about existential threats. There is actually, I have to confess, there is existential threats to Israel. But where is it coming from? Anybody has any idea where is the existential threat coming to Israel from? Good. Any other ideas?
Economies.
Hezbollah, okay.
All of Iran's concerns. All of Iranian concerns.
Good. Let me surprise you. The real existential threat is coming from Israel. Is coming from Israel, from within. Having lived there, having seen the society, those extremists are the existential threat to Israel. Why I'm saying that? Is it only a political statement? No, it's not. Get back into the history of Israel. Throughout history, the history of Judaism. And that I used to tell them, I'm a good reader. I like to read a lot. I don't like to speak a lot. I like to read a lot. I would tell them, get back to your history. Learn from your history. Because we have a tradition in Egypt of learning from history. Because we have been there for so long. But we look always to history, whether our own history or mankind history. And I always tell my Israeli friends, I would tell them, look into your history and you'll know all the answers to your problems. First of all, they need to make peace with themselves. They need to make peace with their own history. Feeling that they are always under attack. I was watching the news the day before yesterday on the weekend. It was during the weekend. And this was the first day of Iranian rockets falling on Tel Aviv, because I know the places. I lived there. And the reporter was saying, look, what's happening? They are demolishing, they are killing children. Really? That is not acceptable, isn't it? That's not acceptable. That is not acceptable to me. But why is it acceptable to them? With what's happening in Gaza. I saw what's happening in Gaza. I lived it. I saw it with my eyes. This was my fight. This was my bread and butter for a year and a half until I came here. Do you know that the amount of assistance that is being sent from Egypt to Gaza? Of course, we used to coordinate with the Kogat. The Kogat is an Israeli army, of course, that is in charge of these things. There were things products that was returning. And I used to take foreign delegations because they wanted to see their country's assistance, if it's going or not. I would accompany them. And then there was a whole hangar of returned items. And we took them because these items they will have to take back to their countries. We will not keep it in Egypt. It's theirs. They paid for it. Their governments paid for it. But Israel does not allow it to get and to enter into Gaza. And among the returned items was toys. And the foreign dignitaries would tell me, why are they not allowing the entrance of toys? And they asked me this question. And actually, I would reply the following. I agree that toys should not enter into Gaza. This is something I totally agree with the Israeli IDF on. And they would tell me, why are you saying that? I would tell them because they are killing the children. They don't need the toys. They are killing them. There are no children now in Gaza. Is that acceptable to everybody here? Let's make our voices clear. We have very close, for instance, or for a country like Egypt, we have very close relations with Israel. Very, very close relations. But we are very principled. Our foreign policy, and that's why I was telling you, principled at the beginning. We are very principled. Very close relations, very high coordination, and I'm sure the same thing used to happen with Jordan. Cooperation. But if you have a friend, don't just pamper him. Tell him what you're doing is wrong. And this is what we are telling the Israelis. What they are doing is wrong. I hope I did not take much of your time because this is an issue that's very dear to my heart.
So let me open this up for your questions, comments, observations. Please be very brief. Just introduce yourself and ask a question, or if it's a comment, be brief in your comments. And please ask one question only. Don't say I have 3 questions to ask. So let me begin at the back. Yes.
Hi, sir. I'm Siddhant from WANA. I have just one question. Because of the ongoing conflict in West Asia, there are worries over Indian evacuation. Now, India is planning to evacuate its people from Israel. Has India reached out to you? Because one of the land borders are open with you, I believe. If you can clarify on that.
I'm sure the Indian embassy in Cairo would try to reach out to the foreign ministry, and I'm sure that we will give all assistance possible for the evacuation of Indians from Taba.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Keshav Padmanabhan, and I'm a journalist with the Print. My question is, earlier this year, there was an agreement for bilateral defense industrial cooperation that was signed between India and Egypt. And you've highlighted... This year or last year, I think it was. And you highlighted that. So I just wanted to get a sense of what are the specific areas that you can speak about that we're looking at joint production? And how do you see this going forward, say, in the next 2 or 3 years? Is there some sort of roadmap that is being discussed or will be addressed when, say, the foreign minister comes next week? Thank you.
Actually, you're jumping into my speaking notes to the foreign minister. So this is one of the issues that I'm preparing for the foreign minister to raise it with Minister Jaishankar, that we should have a plan on this issue. And I wouldn't like to elaborate more because these issues are a bit tricky.
You can write about it next week, Keshav. Yes. So anyone else at the back before I come to this side? Okay. Ambassador, can we take a few questions together?
Good afternoon, Ambassador.
Together. Mesh. Okay, fine.
A few. Yes.
Good afternoon, Ambassador. I'm Ahan. I'm a first-year student, upcoming second-year student of International Relations and Policy at NTU in Singapore. I'd like to start by saying that although Egypt and India have civilizational ties, we here have not forgotten how Egypt came to our aid by shutting down the Suez Canal during the Goan Liberation War. And we do not forget how India helped the Egyptian cause during the Suez crisis in post-World War II. I believe the key to Egypt-India cooperation when it comes to advanced technology is the Rafale fighter jet. Both our nations operate it.
Is the
Rafale fighter jet. Both our nations operate the Dassault Rafale Omni-Role fighter jet in somewhat significant numbers. And Dassault has entered a partnership with Tata to produce them in-house here in India. Now, would it be beneficial for Egypt to start buying the Indian-produced Dassaults to knock down the exorbitant $136 million price tag on those jets?
My question is not on defense industry, but in terms of the commercial investment, Indian commercial investment in Egypt, which has been growing. One of the largest has been by the Sanmar Group. So how do you see the incremental investments going up, and in terms of the interests of the Indian sort of corporate sector in investing in Egypt?
Let me start from the second to the first. For the commercial investment, sir, there is a huge potential, and actually Egypt has offered India we have a specific zone in Egypt we call the Suez Canal economic zone, and there are various countries investing in this zone, and we offered India a special dedicated area to bring its industries and to bring its developers and to manufacture in this zone. This zone includes 6 ports and 6 ports on the Red Sea, 3 ports on the Mediterranean Sea, and 4 to 5 industrial areas. So there is a huge potential. I think India is studying this issue because for the incentives that we are going to offer, actually, I have a whole pamphlet of incentives, but I hate to read it because it says zero. Everything is zero. So you will not. Everything is zero. No taxes, no customs, no. It's zero. Everything is whatever you think is about is zero. So I always say everything is zero. It's easier to put it this way. I think this is a huge opportunity for Indian investments to come, especially to use Egypt as a hub to Africa and to Europe and to Middle East and Arab countries. This is a huge opportunity that I think that, but I have to confess that the Chinese are doing a great job using this area. They have 3 areas in the Suez Canal zone, and there is a rumor that they are contemplating a 4th one. Russia is there, Indonesia is there, other countries are there, and I think that we offered the U.S. a special zone also, and this is what. I think it's being studied for the moment. So this is something that we have offered India, and we are waiting for a reply on that. So potential is huge, especially with the Indian efforts to have trade corridors to Africa and to Europe and the Middle East. So this is a very low-hanging fruit. But it needs to be studied from your side, and it needs to be decided upon from your side, because it's this is business, and a lot of people are coming. For the Rafale jets, I think this is a good idea of field of cooperation, and this would be a trilateral cooperation. Actually, it would be Egypt, India, French cooperation. And I think this could be an issue that could be at a certain point raised at a trilateral level.
Maybe a talking point for the minister. Okay, so I have lots of hands around. Someone here.
Hi sir, my name is Omar. Sir, you mentioned about Egypt being the first one to condemn what Hamas did, and then subsequently what Israel did, and the recent terrorist attack in India. I would like to know your thoughts on Egypt backing the SAF in Sudan, which is probably witnessing one of the devastating wars currently, which has killed, in which lakhs of the people have been killed, millions displaced, people without basic services, like without food, without medicines. So I would like to know your thoughts on Egypt backing SF, which has intensified and prolonged the civil war in Egypt? Thank you.
No, civil war in Egypt?
Sorry, Sudan.
Sudan.
So my question is connected to what you were saying about the Israel-Hamas war. And my question is,
No, the war in Gaza. We call it the war in Gaza. It's not. It's not because Israel Hamas. It gives you an impression that there's two equal partners. It's the war on Gaza.
my question is that in a society where there is a lot of radicalization, how is a situation where Palestinians want their own country and Israel has already been in existence for 50 years, asymmetrically is much more powerful, and has its own radical elements in terms of settlers and everything else. When this kind of radicalization exists, Muslim Brotherhood, which was so big, has done so much to go all over the world. When this kind of radicalization exists in society and is passed on generationally, how will there be solutions?
Yes.
How will any solution arise?
One more in this round, and then I'll.
So adding to her question, sir, I was recently at delegation from Israel, and our general asked them, one of our retired generals, like, you are at war, what is the end game? Eventually you have to come to a solution. The response we got from them is that settle with whom?
Good question. Yeah, good question from them, but I haven't answered.
Yeah. So they don't see a counterparty on the other side.
No, they don't see a counterpart from Palestine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I think he was raising a question, so after that we'll stop.
Hello, sir. My name is Jaydev. I am from JNU. So my question was also the same, that when it will end, the Israel-Gaza war and Iran also coming now. So is there any end to this, or Egypt will mediate it all? So because
We are still mediating with everybody, so
you are still mediating, but yes, the war is escalating. And the thing is, this is the humanitarian crisis, and children are, most of the people are dying. So how in humanitarian crisis is happening, so how it will end?
humanitarian crisis.
Yes, the war, how it will end?
I will answer first with the Sudan. Before answering your question on Sudan, I will have to tell you one of the core notions or entrenched belief in Egyptian foreign policy or Egyptian mindset. It's not only foreign policy. Egypt is the first nation state on earth. A nation state is a state that contains various components and they feel attached to the state. And we were throughout history, Egypt is very centralized. So we are so attached to this state. We have been centralized even by geography, by the way, because we live along the banks of the line. We only live on 6% of our territory. And states rise and go. And if you have a time lapse of history with the world map, the Egyptian map sometimes it increases, sometimes it expands, and sometimes it shrinks. But the crux of the Egyptian territory has always been like that. So the notion of a nation state is very dear to our heart. And state institutions. Mentioning what happened in Sudan, we have always said that whether in Sudan, and the same thing we said it in Syria, we said the same thing we said it in Iraq, and this you will find what I'm going to say as a theme in the Egyptian foreign policy. We support state institutions. So when you are mentioning the Sudanese army, a Sudanese army at the end of the day is a state institution, and we will support anything, any sort of dismantling of the state is not acceptable to Egypt. Who paid the price of the current turmoil in Sudan? Who's paying the price for that? Do you know who's paying the price for the current the term or the turmoil that used to be in Sudan? Now it's the trajectory is getting to a better circumstances. Who paid the price?
Million people who get affected.
Yeah, where did they go? Where? Where?
Some in Egypt.
No, almost all of them in Egypt. And do we have in Egypt around 6 million? Good, because I do not really remember the number. It's around 6 million who crossed to Egypt. 6 million Sudanese. Where are they living? Do you know where they are living?
I think they said the displacement camps.
Yeah, good idea. We do not have camps. We do not have displacement camps. We do not accept calling them displaced. We do not accept calling any Arab citizen a refugee. We don't accept that. We refuse that. They are living in Egypt like the Egyptians, and they are treated like the Egyptians. They are getting the same services like the Egyptians. Health, education. Anybody in the whole world paid this price? We paid it for them. The same thing happened with the Syrians, by the way. I used to be a person in charge of the Syrian fight. Same thing happened with the Palestinians. But the Palestinians that we got were not displaced. We got them for being treated because they were treated in Egypt. So what we did with the Sudanese, we got them, we protected them. We did not put them in refugee camps. This is not accepted. This is inhumane to put an Arab into, or any human being into a refugee camp. They're not animals. Until the situation get improved in their country, the state institutions get control again of the country, and then they started returning. And now, actually, what I've learned that they started getting back. So for the situation in Sudan, it's getting better. People are starting going back to their homes slowly, but the wave is in that direction. And the state institutions is getting back its control of the country. This is the most important thing regarding Sudan. And because the other three questions were all about almost the same issue, but radicalization and the trend of radicalization. What's the solution? What do you think?
Well, I think, I don't know what the whole solution is. I know some of the things because both sides, the radicalization is, they're getting validation from religious books.
Religious books. Good. Wait. I like this this angle.
So, like, I mean, groups like Hamas or Hezbollah or the Muslim Brotherhood, they have taken a false interpretation of the Quran and they're using that to brainwash the young people, especially. And this is also a case in it's also a trend in the mosques of UK. So I think that's one place to start.
This is the first place to start.
Exactly.
Let me tell you that extremists always use religion as a pretext, and people usually get attached to religion, and this is our religion, and so on and so forth, and they start building on that, and the developments on the ground actually helps them. And that is why I always say, do not religionize any conflict. Any political conflict should not be given any religious flavor. The Israelis are doing that, and that is why in 2018, when they passed this law in the Knesset of the Jewish state, I used to tell them, listen, this is very dangerous. Do not give a religious flavor to any country. That's why I always say Egypt is always with a nation state. A nation state does not have a religion. A nation state has different components. By the way, India is a nation state. So many components here in India. You're so diverse. And you're a very good example of a nation state. And this is what we all should be telling those people, and whether in Israel and even the Palestinians, they should not give any religious flavor to this conflict. It's a political conflict. It's an issue. It's not a conflict. It's an occupation. To tell you that, to put things in the right name, we should call things. We should call a spade a spade. This is occupation. Israel have their own state. Fine, they have their own state. Good. We recognize them. Jordan recognizes them. We are dealing with them. Other countries are dealing with them. But that does not mean that they should be pampered, and they will not be pampered. This is the thing. So radicalization, giving it a religious flavor, yes, but the solution is we need statesmen. There's a big difference between political leaders and statesmen, a very big difference. A statesman has a vision. Usually a political leader does what his electorate wants. A statesman does not have to do what the electorate, or maybe he makes the contrary. And I will give you a good example of that, President Sadat. President Sadat, when he was going to, when he took his aircraft to go to Tel Aviv, I would assume I was only 4 years old at that time. So, what I know is that I would say that 99.999% of the Egyptian society was against this step. Everybody could. It could have been easier to imagine that this aircraft lands on the moon rather than it lands in Ben Gurion Airport. People were against it, but he took the step. He took a bold step. He pulled his country from war to peace because he knew that at the end of the day, war is an act of diplomacy or a political act that would achieve an objective. So the objective you can achieve it, war and peace. If we got our land, then what? Peace. It's not a war forever. The Egyptian society was against it. And as I told you later, that after that there was a wave of terrorism. But the Egyptian society in general, when they started seeing that there is a fruit of peace, then they were resilient. Radicalization, if we keep this trend going, the Palestinians will be radicalized, the Israelis will be more further radicalized. This brings me to the other important component, which is the recognition of the Palestinian state. We always tell our diplomats and interlocutors, you need to recognize the Palestinian state. And they say, how do we recognize the Palestinian state? They do not have a state. And I will come back to the question, whom do we discuss? They do not, where is it? Tell them it is recognizing the Palestinian state. The Israeli narrative is that you're going to give a prize to Hamas, what they call Hamas. Well, it's not true. This is time of prudence. You will give a light to a Palestinian that the world started to recognize me, to recognize my right to live. If you keep on leaving them like that, they will keep on moving, by the way, towards extremism. 60,000 people died. How many children were orphaned in Gaza? What do you think the prospects of these orphaned children?
I don't know their prospects, but I do hope that more extremism is
Thank
more
you.
extremist
Thank you.
groups are
Thank
going to
you.
come out
Thank you. Thank you.
as far as-
I think in 10, 20 years, if things continue like that, I think Hamas will be the lighter version ever. And by the way, we see the example in Israel. We see the example inside Israel. Those who were categorized as terrorists are now are now in government, and maybe in 5, 10 years, I don't know, they will be leading the government.
But radicalization.
That's a never-ending debate.
There are two more questions. I have two more questions. To whom to settle with? They were asking this question. First of all, where they were from the IDF, because usually the IDF are much more prudent people. Usually in Israel, yeah, but okay, I understand. But usually IDF people are a bit more prudent than politicians. And I think the IDF knows the answer to this question. If you are asking about whom to settle with, everybody knows whom to settle with. The address is there. The address is the Palestinian Authority. They recognize. There's differences among the Palestinians. Yes, we were trying to make reconciliation, but the Egyptians were trying to make reconciliation also with the Jordanian between Hamas and Fatah. But who was spoiling it? Anybody knows? Have any idea who has always been trying to spoil any reconciliation between Hamas and Fatah?
Who created Hamas? Who created Hamas?
Yes. Who created Hamas? Thank you. Who financed Hamas? How?
They wanted to cut Fatah's
Division.
No.
division.
No. How did they finance them? Anybody knows?
Qatar?
Thank you. Because these are things that I cannot be saying. But since you know the answers, I saw the money personally. I saw this person sitting in front of you. I saw the suitcases with $15 million per month. It was $15 million per month, landing in Ben Gurion Airport, being escorted by the Shabak to Eretz crossing. So the answer is, everybody knows the answer. And by the way, how to reach an agreement? If there is a political will, agreement could be reached in 20 minutes from now. 20 minutes. And I mean the word, 20 minutes, because all the ingredients of a whole agreement is there. Ask Ehud Olmert, ask Barak. They know it. The Israeli society knows it. They will keep on bragging about, we do not have a partner. By the way, do they have a partner inside Israel? Let's assume that we said, okay, the Palestinians said, okay, we want to make peace. Whom to make peace with? Smotrich or Ben Gvir? Who? I have names who can make peace in Israel, by the way, but I will not tell you. When will it end? When there is a political will. When there is a clear message from the international community, from all the countries, not behind closed doors, in front of everybody, saying that you will have to abide by principles, even by Israeli friends, by the way. And actually, it should come from the Israeli friends. This is the thing. It should come. It should not come from the enemies. It should come from their friends, their allies. You need to stop what you're doing is wrong, and you need to stop it. This is it. Thank you. Please, Ambassador.
Yes, just to rely on the question of terrorism and the radicalism in our region. Terrorism, of course, has no religion. No religion, just preach terrorism. Radicalism happens when you have injustices in society or between countries. What do really Hamas want? Liberate Palestine, right? What do Hezbollah want? Liberate Palestine. What do Iranian wants? Liberate Palestine. So the question is the Palestinian issue. Once we give the Palestinians their statehood, once we stop humiliating them, deprive them from being human beings, humiliating them at the checkpoints, destroying their farms, their animals, their agriculture, their every means of life, then we can talk about peace. If Israel, the question is why the other side, the Israelis don't see partner in the other side, because they don't want to see partner. Because the current government, Israeli government, is the most extreme government in the history of Israel. And with its components, there are people who are just announced publicly to expel Palestinians from the West Bank and Gaza. So you don't have, in the Israeli side, in the current days, a partner to make peace with the Palestinians. They don't want to make peace. They want the Palestinians to be second class citizens, to rule them as second class citizens, or to expel them from West Bank and Gaza to the neighbor countries. So, they don't see, because they don't want to see. There are the Arab Peace Initiative that calls for peace and calls for giving Israel, recognition, total recognition, with normalization of relations with all Arab countries, and the exchange of that is giving Palestinians their rights, freedom, on the territories of 1967, West Bank and Gaza. That's all the Palestinians ask for. And why they don't want the Palestinians to succeed, or that's the reason why they are keen to keep division between the Palestinians, to separate them. That's the reason why Israel created Hamas in Gaza. By the way, it's an Israeli baby, it's an Israeli creation to hit Fatah. And
You said it, I didn't say it.
yeah. Yes, that's the reason why we have radicalization in our region, radicalism, and we have terrorism because of injustices that are there. Thank you.
We have last few minutes left, so if you can have brief interventions, please, if you can be brief and to the point. Let me start with you, and then we'll go like this.
Excellency, by far.
For the most interacting session we had. Well, I'm Amit Gupta. I'm a business leader and humanitarian. Since Professor Pant has mentioned, we have to be very brief. So I wanted to ask about the Suez Canal Economic Zone, but you have elaborated in detail about it. In case you can comment upon the green energy and climate collaborations, because you have the recently concluded visit, not recently, but yes, the last visit of your economic minister, he mentioned about it.
The Minister of Trade.
No. About the green energy and climate collaboration. And then maybe skill development and vocational training. And lastly, about the triangular cooperation in Africa. You mentioned about triangular cooperation with the EU, but maybe with Africa as well. We can discuss in detail offline. Thank you so much.
Hello, sir. This is Sri Dharmaraghavan, an independent journalist. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Hi, yeah. I must say, Ambassador, you look very young compared to your photo, especially. So
I'm wearing the same. By the way, I'm wearing.
yeah,
the same,
but you look
the
very
same
young
tie.
apart from your photo.
It's our fault.
Okay. So my question is, Ambassador, and to you also. We are the victims of terror for the past 75 years, we can say. Day in and day out in the borders, we face terror issues from our neighborhood country. I don't want to name them. But when is the globe or the Middle East going to come together, isolate that neighborhood country? Because we have been facing these issues for a very long time. You told the entire geopolitics which is happening in your.
You mean isolate Israel?
No. Our neighborhood.
Okay.
Our neighborhood. Okay. Okay. I stick to my issues. Then I'll come to your geopolitical issue as well. At the end of the day, when is the world or the Middle East going to come together and isolate them? Because day in and day out, we face the terror issues, and India is one of the major partners in most of the Middle East country as well. And you talked a brief about what Israel has done. But there are two sides of the story. When you hear the story, there will be always two sides of the story. Are we silent in that side of the story? That side of the story has to be told to the world or told to the people also. So are we silent in that kind of an issue?
Which side? Because I'm a bit.
Hamas side or something which is happening from the Hamas side, or what Hamas does?
And I said it very clearly. What happened on the 7th of October from Hamas is
Not only on the
unacceptable.
7th of October, I'm talking about the entire history.
The entire history, any terrorist organization that gives a religious flavor to its efforts, this is unacceptable. And any non-state actor that tries to spoil, they are unacceptable. Period. We are very clear on that. We cannot be more clear on that. Mentioning your situation in South Asia. I don't know if you followed the Egyptian position on what happened in Pahalgam and did you follow what we did?
Yeah. I'm not mentioning about the Pahalgam. I'm talking about all these 75 years. I'm not talking about Egypt only. I'm talking about the entire Middle East or the entire areas as well.
No, but I will not. I cannot speak for the entire area. I mean, I'm speaking for my country. So you're giving me more than I deserve. No, but and when we're speaking about terrorism, it is unacceptable. We have very good relations with all Southern Asian countries. Okay, but as I told you before, we stick by our principles. It's a tradition in our foreign policy. And what on the night of the 22nd of April, 23rd of April, Egypt issued a very clear statement condemning what happened on Pahalgam, condemning. We do not play the diplomatic game where we express our concern, and no, we were very clear. This is wrong. To whomever did it, because publicly nobody knows who did it. It's only a terrorist organization. And we condemned it. President Sisi spoke to Prime Minister Modi. Our foreign minister spoke to Minister Jaishankar. Even before that, my minister spoke to me. He told me, go now to Minister Jaishankar and meet him and tell him our condolences. We were very clear. We stick by our principles. And this is something that you should look into when you are speaking about your positions towards what's happening in the Middle East. You should stick to positions, not interests. We have our interests with all the countries in Southern Asia. Egypt has its relations with all the countries of Asia in general. But we did not say no because we have this relationship. We do not want to intimidate them. No. We stick by our principles. We say what we think is right and what is wrong. This is my answer to your question. Trying to be very diplomatic.
Can you quickly now go around the table? Yeah?
Good question. My question is about the trade and also given the absence of the bilateral investment treaty between India and Egypt. So keeping in mind the history of the regulatory unpredictability about the retroactive tax changes and the sudden export bans that can be seen in Egypt, and the sudden interest of the Indian companies in Egypt related to the green hydrogen and the fertilizers, how do you think that with the absence of a very clear and legally binding framework related to the investment plan, how the investors of Indians can trust the Egypt market regarding to that?
I'm sorry, I owe you an apology. Somebody asked me about the green energy and I missed it. I'm so sorry. Okay.
We will take all of them together now. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, Ambassador. I have an institutional question for
more than a question about the war. Given that the Cold War era has ended, what relevance do you think the non-violent movement still has today for countries like Egypt and India that are Asian capitals?
Good evening, Excellency. My name is Simarjot and I am leading the World Culture Staff Organization. So,
I think we met before, yeah? Did we meet? We met before, yeah.
Yes. So, my concern is how can our organization, youth-led organizations, can help, can raise the cultural tie-ups and fostering trade, bilateral trade opportunities. As India has 6 times more export than the imports, how can we balance out the this gap and the export from Egypt to India in the particular areas of fertilizers and other minerals can help out? And what else could be done and how our culture organization can help as we are linked with many of the associations and many of the good organizations, youth-led startups. How can the startups of Egypt and India can collaborate on tourism technology or green energy and various opportunities which can be explored out with Egypt? Thank you, Excellency.
Hi, I'm Ishwarya. I'm from Strat News Global. So I just want to ask, with the recent escalation of conflict in the Middle East and Trump's statements, is there scope for back channeling anytime soon? And I'm sorry, one more question. What is your sense of how Arab states are seeing the current situation in the Middle East? And are they quietly, by any chance, approval of Israel's doing, if at all, they are threatened by Iran and its nukes? Thank you.
My question to you would be, having worked in a lot of youth-led exchanges, be it in the Tanta city or 6th of October city, I have seen how cultural understanding builds trust across borders. How important is soft power and people-to-people diplomacy in Egypt's broader foreign policy strategy today?
No, I like the questions, all of them.
Good evening, Mr. Ambassador. First of all, thank you so much, and our heart goes out to all the innocents losing their lives in Gaza, even as we speak. But my question is more about India-Egypt relations. You talked about moving away from looking at each other through a trade lens, and yet most of our conversation, even right now, is about trade and about economy. And so how do we make up for the pit stops that we've faced over time in our relations outside of just economy and trade?
It seems we will spend the night. Do you have dinner for me?
Yes. Good afternoon, sir. I am Harvinder Singh Sagu. While all the questions, important questions, have been covered, and you have done your academics here in the country, so I assume you are more Indian or equal Indian as Indian is. So, is Egypt really seeing India as the global supply chain leader in the next 5 years? And the second one from here is the trade between us Indians and you, Egypt, is 3 billion or 4 billion. So you mentioned that your administration wants to take it to 12 billion. What are the two most critical industries, or you're working with Ministry of Commerce, where you generally see we can collaborate together?
Good evening, Your Excellency. My name is Sankalp. I'm a research intern at ORF. My question is, I have two questions. I'll be precise on it. So first, there has been a global march by the Western protesters, which was blocked in Egypt. They wanted to go to Palestine. So I would just like to ask.
Thank you for asking. You should have asked this question at the beginning. Thank you very much.
And the second question is that, as you have reminded us, what happened to Iraq and what happened to Syria, similar thing might happen to Iran, because we've seen there's been indications by Donald Trump and then Netanyahu in the past as well that they had an aim of doing a political regime change, maybe seeing the Operation Rising Lion, the name of it as well. So what do you think about that, and how would Egypt like to intervene into it or stop this? Because mere words will not change this. I think Egypt can take some action politically or in other ways which you can think.
I was thinking back to you, I was talking about the pitfalls of religizing warfare and conflict. But as I understand it, Egypt has a state religion which directly informs its constitution.
Has what?
Egypt has a state religion.
Yes. No. We don't have a state religion. We do have the laws emanates based on the principles of the Sharia. This is a big difference. We do not have a state religion. A state does not have a religion. Get to Article 1, or I think it's Article 2 of the Constitution. It used to be like that in the first Constitution that has been elaborated by the Muslim Brotherhood, not the current one. Okay, I'm sorry.
I am Fareem Hussain, and my question is this: how do you see the future of India-Egypt relations?
Okay. So many questions, but I will start from you because I like the question, because I was waiting for this question about what's happening for the foreigners who are trying to demonstrate in Egypt. Because this I've been working on this for so many months and before answering your question, what do you think? Before telling you my answer, tell me what you think. No, not diplomat. Just tell me what you really think. That we are crushing the supporters of Palestine?
Like you said, that it is due to the situation in Gaza, that you protect this to having the security, and then Israel might be a bomb there or something.
Okay. Activists are activists. They like to show that they are doing the support, and this is something we respect. And Egypt is equally an activist when it comes to the Palestinian issue. But there are two principles. There are two answers to your question. There's a long one and a short one. I will give you a favor and I'll give you an offer. I will tell you both. The short answer is that there are two principles in our foreign policy: respect of our territory and our rules, because we do have rules for such cases. And we have issued a statement clearly stipulating the steps that these activists should do in order to get all the clearances from the Egyptian authorities. Second, let's assume that we got all the clearances and the acceptances from the Egyptian authority. What would happen? They wanted to enter into Gaza. What would happen? Anybody has any idea what would happen? They would be killed, to put it simply. And their blood would be on Egyptian hands, and the Egyptian hand does not have any blood on. And we will not accept having any blood on our hands. Because if we allow them to get into Gaza, we know for a fact, it has been proven, by the way, you see the numerous foreigners who has been killed in Gaza. They are going to kill them. Israelis will going to kill them. Not only that, this will hinder our efforts to mediate and to get assistance to the Palestinians. So actually, we are protecting the Palestinians by doing that. So this is an answer to your question. You asked another one. Get back to history and try to find the answer to yourself, because I don't like to speak about what our expectation, because this is a very presumptuous question that I have to presume, and it's not appropriate. Things can happen, things cannot happen. Global supply. Do we look at India? Who asked me about the India global supply chain? This is exactly what I want. I don't want us to do. I don't want to look to India as a global supply chain supplier. I want to look to India as an important global player. Important player in the global south. Important player who speaks in the name of principles of the global south. This is the main way that we look at India with. What fields that can bring us to 12 billion and more? On top of my mind, I'm thinking of cotton and fertilizers, green energy, we can work together on data centers, because this is the future, and this is what I call the future nuclear weapon. This is who owns the data centers, who works together on data centers. This is the future, and you are very advanced here in artificial intelligence. Somebody asked me about the youth, about the NAM and the youth who, no, yeah. NAM remains a very crucial, even equally crucial as it was in the 60s, because today we see a global world order crumbling, and who will speak in the name of the global South rather than the NAM? Especially, there are two components into this crumbling international world order. There is the political component with the United Nations system and so on and so forth, and there is the international financial system. The international financial institution that needs a lot of reform could be attributed to BRICS, where Egypt and India are members. India, of course, is a founding member, and Egypt is a new member. So this could be a good platform or launchpad where we can work together on international financial reform. But on the international political reform and international legal system, then the non-aligned movement remains very relevant because it includes all the southern countries. Youth, what the youth can do, actually, I'm so happy today that I'm here with you because of the youth, because you are the future, they are the future. What's happening today, it's their future. It's not my future. In a few years I will be expired, but it's their future, and they have the role. And this is something, by the way, that is so tightly and so enshrined in the Egyptian current foreign policy with President Sisi, because what happened in 2011 and 2013, it was the youth who was behind the revolution. They were so depressed because of the political situation in Egypt prior to 2011. And they are the ones who supported the current president, and they are the real energy. That is why ever since he was elected, we had a yearly international conference. I don't know if you heard it about or not. International conference for youth, international. But unfortunately it stopped since COVID. I hope it will return back, because it was a major conference. It was held in Sharm el-Sheikh. Youth from all around the world would come. They would talk together, attend panels, collaborate, exchange views, get together. And this is what I call the real soft power. You are the real soft power. The youth is the real soft power, and you are the real future. And I like to hear, that's why I was asking you questions. Actually, I'm not here to reply. I want to hear from you. Solutions coming from the youth is much more fresh, much more operational than solutions coming from an old man like me. Youth is a very important component in our relations. You mentioned about how can we get businesses together, exhibitions, SMEs. Today I was coming from your SME institution, and I saw things that are huge, and we do have an MOU together. And I went there to operationalize it. I told them, come on, let's implement what we have in the document. Startups. Let's meet, come to see me, give me ideas, but give me concrete ideas. Concrete ideas, I will do it. We will do it. Something operational. Because I don't like to, part of my job is to brag, speak a lot, but when it comes to work, no, we need to deliver. If you have ideas, I will be more than happy to look into it. Soft power, the Egyptian, I think people to people and soft power, this is one of the major aspects. You have your films here in India. We have our music. We have our films. And The potential is huge. Like, come to make films to Egypt, and I want Egyptians to come make films here. Tell me the right address. Should I go to here in India to encourage to make films in Egypt? I'm willing to go anywhere. What are the right addresses here to ask people that I want to bring Egyptian movie stars here to India? Give me the right address. I'm more than open for that. Tourism is another low-hanging fruit in our relations. You are increasing the level of tourism abroad, and you are exporting so many tourists abroad, and unfortunately, you know nothing about Egypt and tourism. And the other day, somebody was telling me that because you had your declining relation with a certain country in the Middle East, people started looking to Egypt as a possible destination for tourists. So, supposedly, I should be happy. Actually, but I was not happy. Egypt should not be a potential alternative. For Indians, Egypt should be the primary focus for tourism. With all the various components of tourism that we have, we are in Egypt. We have a whole industry of tourism, and we can have programs together with Jordan, with Petra. There's a whole lot, and the Indian tourists are very cultured tourists. We don't like. I don't think that Indian tourists like to go to beaches and partying. I'm sure the youth would like to do that, but from what I know, that they're more cultured, and this is what we have. You have it in Jordan. We have it in Egypt. It cannot. This situation cannot be, and especially now we have direct flights from Mumbai and from Cairo. And from Delhi. Of course, Mumbai to Delhi. And from Cairo, Mumbai, and Cairo, Delhi. So we have it all. Thank you. I think I did not miss anything.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you. And I think one of the things that we saw, the level of interest and your engagement, that we have breached the time limit. So thank you for being here and being so gracious. I think we owe him a big round of applause. Thank you. Ambassador, little something from us.
Pleasure. Thank you. This is the last report that you have with
Yes.